Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Just Unsecure series. Before we go ahead, I'd like to thank everyone who's supported us throughout this whole journey. And we just want to say a big thank you and a shout out to everybody that's, giving us a well-deserved support throughout the journey of all our recordings. So today we have something interesting for you. We have Antidotes to ransomware attacks. Lots of people have been asking about ransomware and how to mitigate them. But before we go ahead, don't forget to, subscribe. See you in a bit. Welcome to another edition of Just Unsecure series on information security and cybersecurity matter as it relates to Africa. My name is Babs and my co-host, OO. We are information security enthusiasts and evangelists. And like I told you earlier, today's topic is going to be antidotes to stop ransomware attacks. So before we go ahead, what would you say ransomware is? I think everybody wants to know what that is. Well, what is a ransomware?
It's so popular that everybody seems to know what ransomware is about, but for definition's sake, especially when it comes to the context of what it's all about. So many people can see anything, but I'll use not my own analogy, but I'll use the CISO, that means the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency. So just at least to have it. And this is the definition they gave it. It said it's a type of malicious attack where attackers encrypt or steal organizations' data and demand payment to restore access or to not publicly disclose data.
Yeah, I think nobody can give a better definition than that for the layman. For the layman out there, or should I say people that just want, I think that's quite simple. For me, I would say, look, is a malware, like they've said, that just is designed to encrypt your computer and content, whereby they either allow you to pay to get the recovery key or
publicly expose you.
Publicly expose or disable your business, basically. So yeah. So that's the interesting thing for us today. We are going to talk about ways security professionals, what we should do to be able to mitigate, or should we put the antidotes to enable you stop ransomware attack. Yep. Do you want to go with the first one, or should I?
Yeah, first of all, of course, is protecting your enterprise, whether you're a small business or even if you are a big enterprise that's listening here, you are actually tasked with the protection of your enterprise. And part of it is, first of all, that I'll mention, which there's a little bit of things to do, is to develop a plan. Develop a response plan. Because the case now is not about whether you're going to get ransom. It's not an if, it is now a matter of when. So that means you need to have a plan. If you don't have a plan now, you need to have a plan, and you have to have enterprise policy. That means incident response plan, so to say. Being able to do that.
I would say another area that for me, I would say is using the best practice out there. Basically doing things like vulnerability management, ensuring your patching is in place, ensuring you're doing regular things like backup, having multi-factor authentication within your enterprise or your organization, least privileged access, just following the best practice out there. That's just some of the other things that just comes to mind when it comes to protecting the enterprise.
One of the core things that you've actually mentioned, which is the privilege account management, actually in the last 1 year, that has been a big source of ransomware infection to the organization. Apart from sending the phishing email and what have you, but most of those that have been compromised have actually compromised with their privilege account. And when you say privilege account, that means some admin accounts that you have. Some of them, or even users that have admin accounts or admin privileges. You need to manage them properly. Then you need to train. I think that is one of the key things in protecting. We always talk about weakest link, whether weakest link is human being or whatever it is, or your partners or your employee or your contractors. You need to do security awareness around at least phishing, identifying phishing emails, malicious email, reporting it, not clicking those very attractive links, so to say.
Yeah, I think following up on what you just said, those links, and sometimes you don't blame employees for clicking, because it's sometimes that's the purpose of it, to entice. Yeah. So I always encourage people, apart from the training, try and get tools in place, tools that do link filtering or domain name system that block and filtering, that do some form of automated analysis of what's coming in, what's about to go out, that will enable you to catch these things, not just leaving it to the employees.
Definitely. I think we'll still get there for some of our listeners to be able to know, okay, at what point should they be able to do all of those fantastic things that you've talked about? One of the last things that I think we should also look at is data encryption. Especially, one of the tenets that I talk to some of our clients, Babs, that we talk to, is what do ransom guys do eventually? They help you to encrypt data you didn't encrypt.
Exactly.
So definitely, why don't you do the due diligence on those critical data that you believe that should be encrypted in the first place?
And even better still, if you have technologies, there are anti-encryption technologies such as endpoint detection and response EDR solutions out there that restrict systems to be able to even encrypt locally. So again, the whole point of ransomware is to encrypt your BIOS. So if you have the ability to use EDR system that would stop, or it's actually enforced not to actually encrypt the BIOS. So again, those are some things you might want to look at. But again, like Yemi said, if you encrypt, better. But if you also want to enforce that encryption does not take place at the BIOS level, like I said, that is the whole purpose of ransomware. It infects the BIOS of any system it tries to take ownership of. So that's what you should also look at.
Yeah. So that is even at the endpoint side, which is the normal workstation. Even more so, you should look at data at rest for your critical data, because those are the ones that are actually used to, the part of them is to disclose those data. So that is where they actually want to ransom you. Not only encrypting your laptop, you can actually change a laptop, but encrypting your data and threatening you that they are going to expose the data, then that is where the real ransom comes in for most enterprise. But again, how can you actually, first of all, go to the next step of saying minimize the impact? I think this is the first thing. When we say that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yes.
So how can you minimize?
For me, it's not a matter, like I say, it's not a matter of if, or it's a matter of when you get a ransomware attack. But like I said, best practice, ensuring you're backing up and restoring files and conducting regular exercises of how you're going to recover and restore your files. Because you get people that they do backup, but they never test the backup. They never do that exercise to say, okay, can we recover what we backed up last week? Okay. And even furthermore, when you're backing up and when you're restoring, you are also conducting a self-check of yourself. How do you know what you backed up you can actually recover from it. And if you don't have that exercise in place, you need to be able to have that exercise to minimize the impact of when you actually get a ransomware attack.
Well, one of the best practice basically of what talked about is to have like this, always said, this regular consistent backup of 3, 2, 1. That means you keep a minimum of 3 copies. So because sometimes just thought, oh, I have 1 copy, that's fine. So keep a minimum of 3 copies, at least 2 in different media, maybe 1 in cloud, 1 on premise, or 1 locally and 1 in cloud. Then you put 1 completely offsite, so which can also be in the cloud or in the cloud of a cloud or somewhere that is completely secure. So one thing is also because I've also seen it, one of the key things you've mentioned we're talking about right now is being able to recover your business. Because if it's going to, when it happens, you want to recover. Babs, guess how long it takes on the average a business to recover from ransomware attack, to recover their data? 14 days. So can you afford that your business goes down for 14 days? Definitely. This is critical, being able to restore instantly. You can also protect the backup, because I've seen people that have backed up, they kept the backup on the disk where it's also really easily accessible. And someone else, I've seen ransomware that have actually encrypted the production server and also went ahead and encrypted the backup. Wow. Because it's accessible. So you must have a technology that can actually deny some kind of right on your backup.
Definitely.
So, but don't forget, even your backup must be encrypted.
Yes, that's it. Because if ransomware is able to get your backup as well, trust me, it's not going to look good at all. That's why Yemi said, have a backup. You can either locally in the cloud or vice versa. So, but you should be able to ensure you have a backup, test your backup, and also ensure that your backup is secure.
Yeah. So one of the best practices is to kind of create what you call an air gap. That means there's some things that are used in the critical system where it can only be one way, kind of. So, which after that activity is done, you disconnect it completely for a while. But these are all the things that needs to be set up. But one thing, when it those even our backups, right? What about mitigating or minimizing the impact when it comes to when endpoints are compromised?
Well, in terms of endpoints, I would have even said micro-segmentation of the network.
Absolutely.
So looking at different, if you can create your network in such a way that when there's an attack, or not just even ransomware, any other cyber attacks, you are able to mitigate and isolate a network. Even if your enterprise, even if it's happening in a part of the company, it doesn't mean it's affecting the entire company. So what we normally recommend, or what I normally look out for, is ensuring that you have a way to micro segment. Okay, this set of people or this company within this company, kind of group people, the researchers, the political scientists,
the partners.
Exactly. Do some kind of micro segmentation that allows okay, if any attack comes through this channel, this is what I should be looking at, because it has been segmented in that way.
But I believe that was spot on, but I believe you cannot do that until probably you also understand a little bit of how ransomware kind of movement works from administration. And that's what people call cyber keychain, right? So, and I know you have experience in this. We need to break this. To understand how it works. So, how do you even, first of all, from the beginning, when you know that, definitely they first of all start from, you mentioned something the other time, like filtering and all of that.
Yes,
And
yes.
I know that what it starts from is, first of all, try to do research, because those guys do research about your organization. They do recognizance.
Yes, recognizance is like every hacker, every malicious person, internal or external. When I say internal or external, I keep trying to educate people, because most people, especially cybersecurity professionals, internal, always assume it's only an external thing. And
Absolutely.
I tell people, you look internal and external, and that gives you, do not think everybody in house is okay, and it's only the people coming from outside. Both parties are going to try and do their reconnaissance and try and get as much information, so when they attack, you feel the punch. So you have to be secure. You have to look at your back as well as your front. That's why being a security professional is very difficult. You're not just looking at outwards, you're looking inwards as well.
So basically, there must be something that you should know before it happens. So there are patterns that you need to be able to detect before it happens. And this has to do with a lot of things that you've put in place, like a link and query filtering, scanning filtering, blocking of malicious links, DNS filtering, and all of that, because this has a lot to do with it. In fact, it also ports. For example, you remember initially when ransomware starts, which they still do right now, is the SMB port. The SMB port, which is like, I think, a 456 thereabouts. That those are the ports that you also need to look. Who is scanning such ports? You need to be able to do malware detection. This looks like simple, but if you look at everything that has happened in the world right now concerning ransomware, in every single day you hear about ransomware, and you think, are people not doing this? Definitely. There's still much to be done. So behavioral, malicious, monitoring malicious attacks, behavior, definitely. Even remember, we discussed about CASB as well when we talked about user behavior monitoring. Definitely, there's a lot that needs to be done in that area.
Yeah, and one thing I always tell people, attackers, when they gain access into your network, they are not just going to start attacking everything. They're going to actually look out and wait and see how far they can get into your network to be able to maximize the fact that they've gained entry into your network. So don't expect an attacker to just go into your network and all of a sudden start attacking it. Trust me, the day an attacker attacks your network, that's not the day they got into your network. So you have to be proactive. You have to be, again, that's why we say, for you to be able to ensure the cyber kill chain for ransomware especially is about educating people. When they see something fishy, they report it. The ransomware takes advantage of, should we say, social engineering. So you have to educate your users. Your users have to be aware of what is likely to come their way. And most of the time, they seem not to target IT professionals. They target more of the finance and other
executives.
People, exactly, that they know easy targets. If I say you're losing 1 billion to, if someone sends me, I'm losing 1 billion, I know, what do you mean I'm losing 1 billion? It doesn't make sense to me. But if you send it to somebody that is the head of finance, he will want to know about it. He's going to click the link. He's going to like, well, why am I losing 1 billion? Do you understand what I mean? It's a different, and that's why I said social engineering is key.
Fantastic. Based on what you've mentioned, our executives need also to be educated, apart from the normal employee, from the floor to the roof. Everybody needs to be educated. And you also mentioned something that seems to strike a chord with me, which you were talking about monitoring and so on. It's activity that it takes a long time for people to actually detect that they've been compromised.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the average the average in a report from Pullman says it takes almost like 280 days before an enterprise can actually discover and contain an attack. So that means almost a year you are there. So again, it doesn't just happen overnight. So, and part of the things you need to also to do is to, if you can provide a reward for people to report malicious emails, please do. Because even if it's just recognition, the top 10 people that reported, people want a kind of recognition or reward. Do it. It's part of awareness. But going from there is to also try to use what we know that you should use. Definitely activity monitoring. Use IDS, IPS, that means intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems.
Yep.
Babs mentioned the EDR, that means the endpoint detection solutions as well, and also anti-ransomware solutions. I believe these are the places also, these are the tools that you want to put in place to be able to stop or prepare to mitigate an attack.
Absolutely. And last but not least is when it actually happened, how you're going to respond to an attack. As in, it's not a matter of it will never, it will. It's going to occur. But how you react to an attack says a lot about your organization and the security program or the cybersecurity program you have in place. So I would always say, once there's an attack, you execute your plan, your cybersecurity plan that includes every single attack vector you have. Some have denial of service, some have ransomware. You execute the plan that constitutes the attack that is in place. So for example, it is ransomware. So you execute your ransomware attack and ensure you follow it to the letter.
Absolutely. If you don't do that, that means definitely you don't even know what are the risky systems. That means you've not done your risk assessment and all of that as well. So you really need to do that. But sometimes you actually need to just completely format an hardware. That means you must have a way to recover your data. You must have a way to restore your data and restore the best known configuration that you've got. Yeah. So if you don't have those things that we've talked about before, proper backup, restore, you will not even know the timeline for you to be able to tell everybody that, okay, I'm going to be back in business in 1 hour or in 10 hours or in 10 days. You must be able to recover to a known state, to a known transaction, to the recent one that you know that you can trust and continue to operate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and for me, the last but not least, immediately once you restore from your best or well-known backup, obviously you have to ensure the backup is not compromised, and that's why we say you ensure you secure it as well. Once you've restored business as usual, you need to do a full review of how the infection or the, should I say, ransomware started, what steps you've taken to potentially stop the breach and any other breach that might occur. But before I forget, the micro segmentation, it's what enables you continue as a business while you are investigating how it occurred. So once you have that micro segmentation in place, it allows you to mitigate what is happening while you're investigating. Because if it affects the whole business is down, enterprise is down, it's a problem for the business. And the more time you'll find it difficult to recover, the more you're going to have, so again, obviously penalties and financial losses that will give you a bit more difficulty for you to recover from a ransomware. So again, follow the steps we've suggested, and there's still more. Again, assessment, risk assessment. It's a whole lot of things to be able to, mitigate ransomware.
Yeah, fantastic. I think you've nailed it. Part of the things that you can also kind of follow is to especially when it comes to the sides of technical side, is also follow CIS. There are configuration standards, also CMM as well. There are configuration standards around the cloud and all of that, on-premise as well, how to configure each application and all of that. So if you're looking for real antidotes that we've given today, there are 4 things that we've mentioned. I'll just try to recap it for some of us who probably want to, joggle their memory on it. One thing we first of all mentioned is enterprise protection, where you put plans and policies in place, and when you do things right. The other one is to try to minimize the impact. When it happens, you want to be able to minimize the impact, you want to be able to recover on time. That means you have a proper backup and restore procedure. You need to be able to segment your environment, in which even when it affects one system, it doesn't mean that your whole environment should go down. That means you identify early, you isolate, and then you bring down. Then also understand. You need to understand the kill chain. You need to understand from the front door to the back door. You need to protect your system. Use the right equipment, monitors, train your employee, and all of that. Awareness, report, reward, exercise, restore, and all of that. Then, of course, the last thing,
but not least, respond to an attack. Ensure you're able to follow the right plan for the attack. Ensure you're able to identify the nature of the attack. Be able to isolate the device or the network that is currently undergoing attack. Be able to recover and ensure, as already said, ensure that your backup is always tested, that you have backups that can be restored, and also ensure that you are able to provide some kind of plan to be able to come away from the ransomware attack. So to be able to rebuild the environment that has that the ransomware is that can, like I say, you can clean the drive, you can clean the BIOS and start all over again. But last but not least, once you recover, you have to do a full assessment of your environment so that what has happened does not reoccur. You do a full assessment, risk assessment of the entire environment to have a clean sweep. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you guys for always listening to us. I think we hope that you've learned something really good today. Don't forget, subscribe from all the channel and join us again next time for a wonderful topic. Don't forget to send us your comment as well.
That's juteam@justunsecure.com. We love to hear from all our fans. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.